Welcome to another fun-filled hashtag Football Friday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeem McGee, which is she. I am Cindy Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at CK80. Once again, that's CK80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Keenan McGee on the Twitter, X, and I can't go again, the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, BODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And make sure, excuse me, and make sure you follow War Media on all social media platforms at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends. Sorry about that.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinions during our 2-hour extravaganza, we call it a Sports Talk Radio Show. You can always hit us up in the comment section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Look in and we get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I've given Lakina full power to give your fools to be a land, be a boot. But before we begin, we must remind you, you can also catch Sports Zone Chicago now, live in the 11 color on Roku TV. That's right. So celebrate with the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. If you already have a Roku television, just tap on that sports folder and download that Sports Zone Chicago app. If you don't have a Roku television, you have some handheld devices laying around, iPhone, iPad, iTouch, your Chromebook, or your PC. Just head up to Google Play Store, download that Roku TV app, and access Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. So no more excuses. Celebrate with the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, live and on demand.
Anytime, anywhere.
And you know we will provide.
And we will provide. We got a busy show today here on Second City Sports. Of course, we'll preview the World Series between the Diamondbacks and the Rangers, and probably the ratings too. They may not get a lot. Don't be surprised. Week 9 in college football. We're already at near that point with just about a month left in the season, with some interesting matchups. And of course, our girl Christine Manika of KXRB will have our NFL Week 8 pick'ems. And I just want to kind of slow it down a little bit. We want to dedicate this episode to our buddy Lamont Scott, who sadly passed away a couple of days ago. He was a big supporter of our show. We even, sat in for Sid a couple of times. Go back to that, the Sox opener where Sid was gone. He sat in with us, myself, and our other good buddy Kyle Means. And he always loved to talk wrestling and always loved talking about college football. So, and also many other things. He was a big supporter of ours. So, and a good friend of ours. So, yeah, we want to dedicate this episode to him.
Yes, and he worked with us back when we were doing our radio show down on State Street. So, yes, peace and love to him and his family during this challenging time. His legacy is all over this show, and it'll never be forgotten. As Lakina said, we're dedicating this show to him in his memory.
Absolutely. So, let's get right to it and talk some, Bulls and NBA. The Bulls, not a good showing in their opener against the Thunder. And apparently they did a players only meeting. Only one game in? Really? I can see it. They did this after like 10 or 12 games and they were like 3-9 or 4-8 or something like that. And things are not going well for them so far. I can see that, but about 2-3 weeks in. But after the first game? Really? I mean, Jesus, it's just like, basically we're going to be doing look, we said this in our preview. You can go back and listen to it on YouTube and on Facebook. But we thought that maybe, the 3-point should be a little bit better for the Bulls and such, and that proven not to be the case on Tuesday. And of course, they got them. They did lead for a little bit against the Thunder, but then of course, I think for 8 straight, 6 straight possessions, they hit 3 is about the Thunder did. So unfortunately, that didn't help themselves there. But what do you think? I mean, it's just like kind of crazy that we're already like having this conversation after only like one game in.
I'm not going to sit here and say that the season is over because it's just one game. It's one of 82. So it's going to be a long 6-month process. But I did like the way that they played in the first quarter. They were 3 of 6 from 3-point range, 2 of 13, though, in that second quarter from 3-point range. And it went all downhill afterwards, after the halftime recess. But the way that the Bulls played to start the game, they had a whole lot of energy. Zach LaVine, even though he wasn't knocking his shots down, he was being more aggressive again to the free throw line. We said that he needed to do that more last year. He did it right after the All-Star break because he was injured around this time last year. I like the play of Kobe White at the point guard position. He's setting up the table for the rest of the guys on offense. Andre Drummond, as we said, Lakina during the preseason, he's going to provide that energy coming off the bench, especially defensively, grabbing those rebounds. He did that the other night. Javon Carter, I liked him. He had his first 2 shots. There were 3-point shots as a member of the Chicago Bulls. So I like what I saw in him. Torrey Craig, as we said, too, in our preview show on Monday, he's going to push Patrick Williams to be the starting point guard. And don't be surprised if that happens as we get longer in this process as the season goes along. So I like the energy that he brought in as well. But I know people want things to happen overnight. I know there's pressure on this team to get back into the playoffs and perhaps do damage in the playoffs. But let's take one baby step at a time. The way I looked at Lakina, the first quarter is the way I think the Bulls are going to try to play this year, as you mentioned, implemented more 3-point shots into the offense. But the rest of the game from the second quarter on, I didn't like what I saw because, Lakina, there's a difference of taking quality shots, including 3-point shots within the floor of the offense. But on the flip side, which I saw toward the end of that second quarter and the majority of that second half, you were forcing 3-point shots, and that's where you get in trouble. It was no mistake they were 11 from 42 from downtown for the entire game on Wednesday.
Yeah, of course, Torrey Craig hit that backwards. He was tapping at 3, so that's never a good thing. And also, too, Zach didn't look good. I mean, he was only 4 for 16 from the field and 2 of 9 from 3. One of your top guys isn't shooting well. That's not good. He only ended up with 16 points, and that's not, if you're trying to like be right there in that mid tier, in that 5-7 range. It's just you just can't have one of your top stars struggling like that from the field. You just can't have that. And look, I mean, Kobe White did his thing. He had 15 points. Vooch had 11 and 8 boards, and DeMar did his thing with 20 points. But the bench mob on the side of it, I mean, they need to get it together. Now, Drummond did get his shots, but he did get some of his shots. Against I think he was like guarding like Lou Jordan. I think Josh Giddey. I think back and forth, and also too with Chet Holmgren as well. Who I mean also too of course Shai Gilgeous Alexander. He had 31 points in the way there, but it's just one of those things where you just like. I'm hoping this is not like a tone setter for the Bulls season because they can't have these kind of games where you gotta be consistent. They were more aggressive in the front, but unfortunately, it just didn't work later in the game.
You're listening to Second City Sports on the Hashtag Football Friday edition right here on Sports Zone Chicago. We're live in the living color. Sid Lakina here with you. Talking about the Bulls 2023-2024 season opener as they fall to the Oklahoma City Thunder on Wednesday by the score of 124-104. They play again tonight at the United Center at 7 o'clock as they will host the Toronto Raptors. Lakina, going back to Wednesday night's loss, Vucevic, he didn't have the greatest stat line, 11 points, 9 rebounds in 32 minutes. But as we said throughout the offseason, as we said throughout the preseason, you got to get him more involved in the offense. It looks like they were trying to do that. I like what I saw in spots the other night. He had a slam dunk inside, which was great to see. Hopefully they continue that trend tonight as they'll take on the Toronto Raptors.
It's going to be a tough go at it against the Raptors, but I mean, let's hope that the Bulls, where we don't see that the same thing. Hopefully, Zach can get his 3-point shots in, and everyone else around the bench can kind of try to contribute and whatnot. So it's going to be interesting to see if the Bulls, like, hopefully this is not like a tone setter, for that. The way we saw on Tuesday, maybe we'll see a little bit, more aggressiveness, especially in the point, and going in there, because they had back-to-back. Remember, on tomorrow they got to go at Detroit, so a little bit of improvement in the Detroit team, so we'll see how they go here. But they start the early road trip. They are at home and then they got to go to Detroit up to Detroit. But I think for me, if you're the Bulls, you want to try to kind of like play like you did in the first quarter. Just try to stick to it through the rest of the game.
Yes, and also too, you'd like to see more contributions, especially offensively, from Patrick Williams, DeMar DeRozan, who the only Bulls player that had 20 points in the game. You'd like to see a little bit more from him. You'd like to see Zach continue to be aggressive. He had 16 points the other night. And also, too, off the bench, Javon Carter, as I mentioned before, I like what I saw in his own three-point shot that he made coming off the bench the other night, but you'd like to see him pick it up a little bit more. I don't know if you paid attention to this statistic during the broadcast the other night, but the Bulls were very good statistically defensively last year. As we said before, they had problems, especially with offensive rebounding the last couple years. Now, they struggled to do that on Wednesday, but offensively, they were last or dead last or fifth. They were fifth on the bottom in terms of free throw shooting, getting to the free throw trips, getting to the line. But all the other categories, we know about the three-point shooting, but field goal attempts and things along that line, they were next to last or dead last year. So we understand why the philosophy changed on offense, but you can just take open shots in general, but three-point shots within the flow of the offense. Don't try to force things as we saw from the second quarter on.
Yeah, and look at the Toronto roster. They're kind of like very similar, maybe a little bit better than the Bulls. I mean, they made the play-in last year. The Bulls beat them, and of course you got Siakam and Scotty Barnes, and those guys, and Dennis Schroeder, who can be up and down too. But I'm thinking that maybe there's no reason why the Bulls shouldn't be able to win against the Raptors. It'll probably be a close one. Going into Detroit tomorrow night. So if they can kind of get the shooting going here and be consistent, play the point, play that little defensive spots, for try to defend Siakam, which is not an easy thing to do, and perhaps maybe try to get Schroeder to force bad shots, because that's the one thing he's not good at. Maybe they can kind of get things right here, and with Detroit, you play Detroit again tomorrow night. Hopefully, can kind of get a nice little mini 2-game win streak going as we go into next week.
And don't forget about OJ Anunoby as well for the Toronto Raptors. He's a poor man's version of Pascal Siakam. He can create his own shot on offense. He's a very good defender on the defensive end. So the Bulls have their work cut out for them tonight, but it's going to be a full 48-minute effort for the Bulls tonight. And the way they're going to come out for the first 10 minutes of the game is going to set the tone. Let's see if they learned their lesson from their loss the other night.
Let's hope so. And let's take a real quick break. We'll talk about the rest of the NBA. We're going to tell you why the West is going to be, let's say it's going to be a little, I think a dogfight would probably be a smaller way to put it. So coming up still, more NBA talk coming next. So Keenan McGee, City Brown, Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. More NBA talk coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on this Friday Fun Friday edition. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can find my Kim McGee on the Twitter, X, at Q's coming in the IG.
We have less than 85 minutes left for this extravaganza we call a sports talk radio show. If you have any questions or comments for us, you can always go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
All right, Sid, let's talk about the rest of the NBA. And we had like two games last night, and one of the games that you saw could be, well, I think proving you that maybe the West will probably end up being once again like a gauntlet. Now remember, this was without the Suns did not have Bradley Beal nor Devin Booker, but Kevin Durant more than did what he could. He had 39 points and 11 boards, but it was Mr. LeBron James for the Lakers. And showed that he still got a little bit left in the tank. He had 21, including I think like 10 in the fourth quarter. I should say. AD led the way with 30 points for them as the Lakers beat the Suns 195. I saw a little bit of this game. It was the second half of the TNT doubleheader, and of course there was a little bit of a struggle. I know LeBron struggled from the field early on, but he really kicked it in, and it's hard to believe that this is actually their first meeting. Talk about KD and LeBron. This is their first meeting, I think, since like 2018, which is a little bit weird if you think about it. But a nice win for the Lakers.
Yeah, the Lakers, they came through when it needed it most. LeBron James, as you mentioned, he went off in the fourth quarter last night. Remember, Lakina, both teams struggled to shoot for the majority of that quarter, and LeBron went up. But it was nice to see Anthony Davis show up on the score sheet in the second half, unlike on Tuesday at Denver. I know everybody from the NBA world, including Screaming A. Smith and everybody else who wants to act a fool, was getting on him. Now, we'll review that Denver game in a minute. But going back to last night's game, you could tell that the Lakers' plan is to play LeBron James 29 to 32 minutes this season. I know he played 35 last night, as you mentioned. He carried the day to finish it off for the Lakers. But also, too, D'Angelo Russell, it was nice to see him again on the score sheet. Even though he struggled shooting from the field, he had 14 points. Austin Reeves had 10. I know he struggled in the opening game at Denver, but he had a nice, solid game last night in the complimentary role, even though he's in the starting lineup. Taurean Prince, he didn't do anything last night he's the starting point guard, one of the new additions to the Lakers team this year. I thought, in my opinion, he was the best player on the Lakers from start to finish the other night in Denver, shooting, hitting 4 3-point shots from the outside. He's going to help LeBron James and the rest of that squad a lot. I like what I saw from him. I know their bench only tallied 21 points, which is nice to see because, as we said before, LeBron James will be turning 39 in December. And so you don't want LeBron James carrying this team like he did last year when most of his guys were hurt before the trade deadline. You want to see those guys like Austin Reeves and Yuri Hankachimura and D'Angelo Russell contribute, and it's got to be led by Anthony Davis. As we said before, we'll say it 1,000 more times. He has to stay healthy. He has to stay active, especially on the offensive end.
Yeah, so we'll see if the Lakers bounce back from. We'll talk about that Nuggets game in a second, but let's talk about the other game that played. That first game of that TNT Thursday doubleheader. Milwaukee edged out the Sixers 118-117, and I guess no trouble with Dame time traveling from the Northwest to the Midwest. He had 39 points. Dave did, of course. Giannis, kicked in with 23, and interesting with as far as that Dame, that's that with Dame that I just mentioned. He had a big debut for the Bucks. His team debut. That's that 39 points was most all time by any player in a team debut. Also, too, he had multiple free throw attempts. That's the most of any. Of anybody. He had 17 attempts. He was actually perfect 100% from 17 for 17 from the free throw line. So already looks like, at least so far, it looks like maybe the Bucks are the new Diamond duo up in Milwaukee starting to figure it out. As far as the Sixers are concerned, Joel Embiid did what he could. He had 24 points. Tobias Harris had 20. Tyrese Maxey had 31. So he actually led the team there, but no James Harden, because it seems like nobody knows where he is, apparently. Was he there? Was he in Milwaukee? Was he up? Nobody knows where he is. So what do you think about this game, Sid?
It was nice to see Tobias Harris, as you mentioned, on the score sheet with 20 points of 8-9 shooting from the field, including 3 for 3 from downtown. But it was Kelly Oubre Jr., the former Charlotte Hornet and the former Washington Wizard from a few years ago from that Bradley Beal, John Wall combo days. He had 27 points off the bench, including 9-11 shooting and 5 or 6 from 3-point range. Like you said, who the hell needs James Harden? The Philadelphia needs those other guys to step in and step up. That's what they did last night. And just like we talked about with LeBron James, even though he's getting older, Joel Embiid, the defending regular season MVP, you like for him to stay healthy because you know what he's going to give you every night. But it's those other complementary guys are around him that's going to have to step up. Tobias Harris, who disappeared last year, especially in the playoffs, he needs to be more consistent this year. Tyrese Maxey, he's going to be fine. So as he continues to grow. Kelly Oubre Jr. looks like he's going to be their 6th man off the bench. I don't know if he's going to give you 27 points a night like he did last night, but you like to see him come in and do some things as well. On the flip side for Milwaukee, as we said before in the preseason, Lakina, that screen and roll game with Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to be crazy. Giannis doesn't need to carry the load anymore. Damian Lillard is going to be that guy who's going to take the last second shot. And also, too, don't forget about Jamison Crowder. He's going to come in and bring in that defense from the guard position, from that small forward position. Also, too, Bobby Portis, a former Chicago Bull. You know what he's going to bring as far as defense of energy from the bench. But the key to it, in my opinion, that third guy is Chris Middleton. Can he stay healthy? It's been a struggle for him over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and I think that's been a real big struggle, like you said. So hopefully you can kind of step it up for them. And look, I think for me, look, like I said, I think the defense hopefully doesn't come down to that, because that's really going to be a problem for the Bucks, especially because that was one of the big problems that they had last year. They all got knocked out early by Miami. It was their defense that kind of let them down. So scoring, I don't think will be a problem for Dame and Giannis, but those guys in the back end need to step up, and also too the defense. I think that we saw what happened. So we'll see if Adrian Griffin and the rest of that Bucks team can figure it out. As Listen Second City Sports on Sports in Chicago. Lakina McGee sitting around with you talking some NBA early. Well, I know the season's like 3 or 4 days old, but we can still talk about it, even still some of the early ones. Okay, so on the Wednesday's matchups, who impressed you so far?
Cam Thomas of the Brooklyn Nets, even though they lost a close one, 114-113 to the Cleveland Cavaliers, he scored 36 points for the Brooklyn Nets coming off the bench. That was a great performance. Kristaps Porzingis made his Celtics debut in the green and white uniform, dropping in 30 points, the most points by a new player making his Celtics debut ever in that franchise. The Knicks, they struggled to shoot the ball to start the game. I know they made a game of it late, but Julius Randle missed a lot of close-in shots. Jalen Brunson turned the ball over in crucial times. I still think that next team is going to be good, but they got to start taking care of business down the stretch, especially against better teams.
Yeah, and going back to that Porzingis shot for a second, because that's actually the most by a Celtics debut, which is actually weird if you think about it. He had 5 threes and 4 blocks in that as well. So they held the Knicks to 20% shooting from the field. So that was a contested shot. So that's really one of the big reasons why they were able to pull that out. Now, as far as Cam Thomas, that's the most, that 36 points you mentioned, that's the most by a player coming off the bench since they started doing that as a stat 50 years ago. And unfortunately, like I said, it was a losing effort because the Cavs just edged them out. But a nice performance by him and the Nets there. The Pacers scored 143 points as they beat the Wizards by 20. Bruce Brown led the way there with 24. That's actually the most by any team in the season opener since 1990. It's also the 5th most all time. So, and Brown also has 6 threes in his Pacers debut. So a lot of scoring going on in the NBA so far. We're only like less than a week into the season. Of course, you got the low management thing, going on there too. Of course, Booker and Bradley Beal didn't play for the Suns last night, so we'll see. I wonder if we're going to see more and more of that as the days goes on, because we know how long the NBA season is, so we maybe see a little bit more of that. Now, going back to this, Victor Wembanyama had a nice debut for the Spurs, but Luka looked really good, in that 126, 119. Luka had 33 there, but a solid debut by Wembanyama. And I think the Spurs. Do I think they'll contend for one of the play-in spots? Not sure yet, but they're definitely going to be very entertaining.
I thought the Spurs could have pulled out that game if Wembanyama wasn't in foul trouble. He really didn't get it going until the fourth quarter, scoring 9 points in that final frame, totaling 15 for him for the entire game. But there was a couple of bad calls down the stretch there. And that's the difference between a young team and an experienced team. The Dallas Mavericks, even though Kyrie didn't do that much offensively, like you mentioned, it was Luka Doncic, including that killer 3-pointer with 36 seconds to go when he shot it over 2 guys with the shot clock going down. You have experienced players like that know what to do down the stretch in the final seconds. And that's what happened on Wednesday. Now, will the San Antonio Spurs be fun to watch because of Victor Wembanyama? Yes. Will they flirt with the play-in like they did a couple of years ago? Maybe, but that team still has a long way to go. As we talked about during the offseason, Lakina, when Greg Popovich signed that contract extension, he's going to coach until he's in his early 80s. And why now? You got the tallest star in the league.
Well, look, when I'm sure when he found out the Spurs got number 1 pick, he probably says, I'll coach for another 5 years. Sure, what the heck?
Exactly.
So but depends on the grandkids. He said he's on his Hall of Fame speech a few months ago. So I'm sure he's probably going to be having more. Even I'm sure I can only imagine what he's going to say to Wembanyama. So I could. Well, I'm sure as a couple of kids, you'll probably say something about it, but. Going to Friday's matchups for this weekend, you got.
One more thing, Lakin, before we go into the matchups for this weekend, did you from the Sacramento Utah game from the other night? Did you check out that dump by Malik Monk?
Yeah, I saw that.
Between the legs pass from De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk dunked it over Utah Jazz and former Bulls star Chris Dunn. That was sweet. For those of you who haven't seen it, go type it up and look it up on YouTube. It was nice.
Brother, I know Dan was probably embarrassed about that. So now we go into the matchups for this week. Detroit and Charlotte at 6:00 tonight. Denver and Memphis. That we'll be interested to see what happens. We saw Memphis. We see what they did. The Pelicans beat them, but it looks like they can kind of try to keep it kind of like floating until Ja's able to come back. We'll see. Knicks and Hawks. The first game of that Friday ESPN doubleheader, you got Miami and Boston. So we'll see how Porzingis looks, and then we'll see how Miami. We know they had their struggles on Wednesday.
Yeah, they barely survived that one against Detroit the other night.
Yes, they did. So we'll see how they look. OKC in Cleveland, and of course, Raptors and Bulls.
Yeah, it's finishing out your Friday night schedule. The Rockets will visit the Spurs at 7:00 for a Texas showdown. The Brooklyn Nets will hit the road. They'll take on the Dallas Mavericks in their home opener at 7:30. At 8:30, we'll have the Utah Jazz playing their second consecutive home game as they'll host the LA Clippers. The Clippers destroyed the Portland Trailblazers the other night in LA's home opener. At 9 o'clock, we'll have Orlando at Portland for Portland's home opener. And at 9 o'clock, wrapping up that Friday night ESPN second half of that doubleheader is a rematch of last year's first round Western Conference playoff series, which the Golden State Warriors won. Is the Golden State Warriors traveling to Sacramento to take on the Kings.
Gonna be watching that. That should be a fun one. Going into tomorrow, Saturday, I'm sure you guys are gonna be listening to this on War Media, Chicago and Detroit, back to back for the Bulls. We'll see how they look.
Mm-hmm.
Memphis also come off a road back, going on a road back to back at Washington. The first game of the NBA TV doubleheader, you got the Knicks and the Pelicans. That should be an interesting one. And you've got the Pacers and the Cavs at 6:30.
Finishing off the Saturday night schedule, Philadelphia will visit Toronto at 6:30. At 7 o'clock, you'll have Miami at Minnesota. At 9 o'clock, finishing out that opening week doubleheader on NBA TV, you'll have the Utah Jazz visiting the Phoenix Suns.
We'll see if Book and Beal play tomorrow night. We'll see. Going to Sunday's matchup, you got Denver and OKC, Golden State and Houston, Atlanta and Milwaukee, Trey versus Dame. So I'm definitely going to be watching that on this on one of my devices.
Yes, so there'll be a points galore scoring in that game. I think if you're betting responsibly, I would take that bet to go the over, whatever the total points are for that game. Finishing out the Sunday night schedule, looks like this: Portland at Philadelphia at 6:30. The Spurs will visit the Clippers at 8 o'clock. That's the lone NBA TV game for the Sunday night. And the Lakers will visit the Sacramento Kings at the same time Sunday night at 8 o'clock. So that's your schedule for the National Basketball Association for this opening weekend.
All right, listen, I can see Sports on Chicago. Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown with you. Let's do a little Diamond Talk, Sid. And if you had the Rangers and the Diamondbacks competing against each other in the World Series, I want to know your Mega Million tickets for tonight, because this is I mean, good grief. Both these teams, became the 5th and 6th teams to come back from. Remember, both these teams had lost 100 games 2 years ago, and now they're less than 2 years later. They're both going to the World Series. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see, because you've got the youth and, sort of like, play with house money, Arizona Diamondbacks, and you got the young, sprawling veterans. You got some guys there with World Series experience. So, of course, Booz Rojios has 3 rings with the Giants. Now, the first game should be a really good one. You got Zach Gallen against Nathan Eovaldi. So that should be a fun little pitching matchup there, starting tonight. Sid, what do you think? Because I'm usually at this, I don't know. We'll talk about the Rays, how they're going to look in a second, but this matchup, I mean, I kind of thought this is going to be a toss-up, but then again, you never know. But what do you think?
I know the Rangers are heavy favorites because of their offensive firepower, and you saw that during the last couple of games of that series against Houston, which they really came alive. But I'm with you. If this is going to be a toss-up series, I don't think you can hand this World Series to the Rangers hands down, because, as we said, even before these playoffs started, what did we say about Arizona, especially coming off that 2-game sweep of the Milwaukee Brewers on the road in the Wild Card Series? They're playing with house money, and they've been playing with confidence ever since, even when they got down 0-2 to the Arizona Diamondbacks. As we said, going into that those 3 games in Arizona, we said for Philadelphia, don't leave that door open for Arizona, because if you do, it's going to you're going to fall flat on your face. And guess what? That's exactly what happened. Arizona won the last 2 games of the NLCS on the road, respectively, and that's why they're here in the World Series. Now, I think this World Series will come down to scoring, especially in the first couple of innings. That Arizona, that team likes to start off hot. And for those of you that don't know, the Rangers will have home field advantage throughout this World Series. So the Arizona Diamondbacks would be the first ones to bat in this series, so they can try to jump ahead of the Rangers right away. So we know that Arizona likes to set the table with Corbin Carroll. You have Tommy Pham as well. So you have to watch out for those 2 guys. Now, on the flip side for Texas, you mentioned Nathan Eovaldi would be the game 1 starter tonight. You got to keep the Arizona Diamondbacks, including their speedy runners, off base, because, as I said, they like to create runs. They like to create havoc on the base paths and steal bases. You saw that in the NLCS against Philadelphia. That team can run on you and run on you hard. And we all know about Texas's firepower, but Arizona can create havoc. And if you let them have their way, it's going to be a long night for you.
Yeah, and look at what Adolis Garcia, what he's been doing, 4 straight games with a home run. So we'll see if he can set a tone starting tonight. And look, we know that the Diamondbacks, can manufacture runs themselves. So it really could come down to probably who among those guys, go Carroll, Walker, and of course, Garcia and Seager on the other side for the Rangers. And look, I mean, I kind of feel this is going to be one of those. It really is going to be the pitching. If who can jump on both these are two of their aces, facing off tonight, and whoever can jump at him first. I mean, could this come down to maybe a 1 or 2-1, type of pitcher's duel? Could this come down to like maybe a 9-8 or 8-7 kind of deal? So for me, it's really going to be the pitching and the defense, and I think that's going to be the thing. Like which team can kind of slow the other team's offense down. Now, as far as the Rays are concerned, I mean, I know people are already doing like the over/unders of how much the Rays are going to be for this. I mean, if you're the Fox executive, you're probably thinking, yeah, I don't know. This might be one of the lower end of World Series. I know they won't say it out loud. I don't like saying it, but it looks like that's probably what's going to happen because you don't have the bigger markets. You don't have Philadelphia. You don't even have Houston to cheer against. So you're kind of like, all right, whoever wins. Yippee. So at this point, I just don't know what's going to happen ratings wise.
Yeah, I think you're going to get a better World Series than people think. Yes, you can sell it that Texas is a favorite, but let's be honest here, Lakina. I know it's been 12 years since Texas has appeared in the World Series. Of course, the last time they were there, and that was in 2011, they lost in a heartbreaker to the St. Louis Cardinals in 7 games on a row. They could have wrapped it up in Game 6, but that didn't happen. They blew it. And, of course, Game 7, they get blown out the water. And, then, of course, the year before that, in 2010, they lost to the San Francisco Giants in the World Series. But before then, the history of the Texas Rangers has not been kind, so you can't. Then they're like you said, they're not that team that America can wrap their arms around. Now you can sell the fact that Arizona is the Cinderella, which they are because no one expected them to be here, and so you can sell that, but you cannot really sell Texas. But I think it's going to be an entertaining and competitive World Series. And I'm not going to sit here and say it's going to be one of the best World Series of all time. I'm not saying that, but I think it's going to be more competitive than what people will think because, like you said, the lack of star power from both of these teams. And just as we said with Arizona, they're playing with house money, they're playing with confidence, and anything can happen. And as we say it every year, Lakina, during the baseball playoffs, anything can happen, and that's where we're looking at right now with Arizona. Now, their short history of them being in existence in Major League Baseball, it really got off to a hot start right away in 98. I know they were an expansion team by 99 when they got Randy Johnson now in the Hall of Fame. That team took off. Of course, they got Matt Williams and some of the other big boppers at the time.
Yep.
In 2000, they nearly missed the playoffs, but in 2001, they picked up Kurt Schilling to pair it with Randy Johnson for that starting staff. Of course, Bob Burnley left the TV booth at Fox to manage the team, and then you saw what happened there in that classic 7-game World Series against the Yankees in the backdrop of 9-11 and all that. They were able to win Game 6 and 7 on their home field to capture the World Series title. But Arizona has had a few seasons here and there, but not recently. But both these teams don't have that tradition like the Yankees or the lesser extent the Mets or the Dodgers or the Cubs or to a lesser extent the White Sox and some of these other big market teams. But you have players on both sides that just love to play the game. They play the game right and play the game hard. So I think we're going to see a competitive series.
Yeah, or you probably even say Houston too as of late. So I think this whole.
But Houston has a villain effect outside of Houston. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, and I think that's really like the whole thing with the Astros and and all that. But I kind of feel like at this point, I mean, look, people like I said, we'll see what the Rays are. But like I said, I mean, they're starting tonight, so that should help them a little bit. The fact that not really competing against football too much. But on the flip side of it, you kind of wonder like, okay. This is going to be like the over-under. I think it's going to get maybe like 11 to 12 million. I mean, you'd be kind of silly to say that it may get more than that, but, I'd be surprised if it did, especially if it ends up being a sweep or whoever sweeps whom. So for me, I think, look, this whole thing about, the baseball season is already long enough. So like, okay, now we're dealing with two teams where I think a lot of people probably wouldn't know, they can't even name like 5 players from either team. So that whole thing is really what's kind of like getting it going here. But I think it's gonna do okay. It's not gonna, but I would be surprised if the Rays come out and Richard Deitch or Austin Carpio they put the Rays out there and it's one of the low end rated World Series. I mean, I know baseball fans, baseball purists want to hear it, but this is probably what we might be going at here.
Yeah. I want to ask you this question before we close out hour number 1. I heard this on the podcast as I was going into work yesterday. Bruce Bochy, now this is his 3rd franchise he has taken to the World Series. The San Diego Padres, San Francisco Giants, now the Texas Rangers. Should Bruce Bochy win it this year with the Texas Rangers? 1, does he get into the Hall of Fame? Number 2, is he one of the top 5 managers of all time?
I think he should already be in the Hall of Fame. I think if he wins,
Agreed.
Probably just this probably might submit it, but I think it's the third manager to do with a different team. So that might help him a little bit. I think he's already in, but I think this might cement it, even if win or lose. So I think the fact that he's been able to do this and come back and do it with another team and another league, I mean that should be commended for that. And the fact that the Rays are kind of feeding off of the relaxedness and the experience from Bochy, and I think this is sort of one of the reasons why Rays were able to pull off the big upsets, beating their AL West rival Houston, and coming back and all that. So I think that's definitely what's helping him. And I think this tone, he's kind of setting the tone for that team. And I know he doesn't want to take the credit because that's not the kind of manager that he is, but he is definitely one of those guys where he should be in the Hall of Fame right now, or he probably put him in right now. So if Texas doesn't end up winning it, I think he's definitely going to get in for sure.
Do you think he's a top 5 manager of all time? Should he win it this year?
I think so. I think if he wins it this year, I think he's definitely going to be the team pitcher in the top 5. I think he's right in that second tier, that second 5, but this might help it a little bit, but he's definitely already in that second tier right now. But does this put him in the top 5? It depends on how they do it. If they completely dominate the Diamondbacks, they sweep them or win them in like a gentleman's sweep, I can kind of see it, but I don't know if he's in the top 5 yet, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how his team does.
I'm kind of with you. I think he's borderline top 5. Of course, that World Series loss in '98 does hurt him. Of course, that was Tony Gwynn. May his soul rest in peace. His second and last, unfortunately, his last World Series appearance. Of course, that was the time that the Yankees started taking off and winning their World Series at the end of the '90s decade. But I'm with you as far as him being in the Hall of Fame. That's a no-brainer to me. You take in 3 franchises to the World Series. And you won a couple of times, I believe, twice with San Francisco, 3 times with San Francisco,
3 with San Francisco.
3 times, yeah, 3 times with San Francisco. And so if he wins it this year, that'd be ring number 4 for him. And so he has to be commended with that right there. So he's already in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. One last one before we close out hour number 1 and close out this baseball discussion. Dusty Baker announces his retirement after his Astros blow Game 7, being dominated in Game 7 by the Texas Rangers. Of course, Dusty Baker gets his World Series ring last year. We're not going to go into how things ended here in Chicago with the Cubs. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother time. But what are your reflections on Mr. Dusty Baker being involved in baseball for a long time as a player, of course, obviously as a manager?
Yeah,
he's definitely he punched his ticket to the Hall of Fame, especially last year when he won it.
Yeah, 52 years. I think he was in baseball. He has a whole World Series as a player. Finally got one as a manager after being close to him more than once. Ranked 7th in wins. The first Black manager to reach that milestone. Have almost 2183 wins, I think. So he'll definitely get into Cooperstown. They definitely first ballot, and he's kind of one of those guys where I think he's a beloved figure, and he's the only manager to lead 5 different teams to division titles and NL Manager of the Year 3 times. So this is won ALS, of course, and for 3 straight years with Houston. and just finally was able to get over that hump and win the World Series, and basically kind of had to sort of like save Houston from the abyss, I guess, with all the stuff going on with the cheating scandal. So yeah, he's definitely going to get into the Hall of Fame for all his contributions to baseball. Now, do I see him perhaps maybe doing some television work? Maybe some limited studio stuff. I know he wants to just chill. I think he said he wants to chill this like fishing boats. So his retirement presser. So he probably doesn't want to do that. But yeah, this is a guy who's been in baseball forever and a baseball lifer, as they say, and he's definitely going to be up there as one of the top managers ever.
Yes, he's. We talk about Bruce Bochy, perhaps knocking on the door as being the first tier top 5 manager of all time. Dusty Baker, in my opinion, is there already. Like we said, that World Series last year that the Astros won, that clinched it for me as far as him being in the Hall of Fame. Every team that he's managed, he's taken them to the playoffs, as you mentioned. 5 different division titles for 5 different teams. I don't think that's something we'll ever see again.
No, absolutely no. But must be everything with all the turnover in baseball, so that's going to be a very tough for somebody to top that. So yeah, enjoy your retirement, Dusty, Mr. Baker, because you've definitely earned it.
Yes, hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 straight ahead as we now transition to hashtag Football Friday here on Second City Sports. We'll preview Week 9 of the college football pigskin. Coach Prime is back in prime time as Colorado will take on UCLA. Will the other big teams get their act together in time to position themselves for the college football playoff positioning? And we'll have our girl, Miss Christine the Queen Manika, to help us out with her Week 8 NFL picks. That and a whole lot more in a special anniversary celebration as you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. Don't move a muscle.
No, I don't know. No, I'm scared.
Do you know that you're in my lane?
No, not at all.
Are you not paying attention? Are you texting?
I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6.
It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention.
I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports on this hashtag Football Friday edition. We're live in living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago, along with Miss Lakia McGee, which is she. I am Sidney Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Keita McGee on the Twitter, X, and Keita's going again, the IG.
We have less than an hour left of this extravaganza we call a sports talk radio show. You have any questions or comments for us, you can always hit us up on Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. And just a daily reminder, you can also catch Sports Zone Chicago now live in living color on Roku TV.
All right, sis. So we're already at week 9 in college football. That's a little bit crazy because we're already like there. But we're more like we're almost 2/3 of the way through the season. So a couple of quick scores. Vodtech beats Syracuse 38-10. Defying Dave Kerner's. I know our buddy Dave Kerner is not very happy right now. We got Florida Atlantic
retirement.
Yeah, I'm about to say he's probably enjoying retirement as we speak. Yeah, love you, Dave. We're gonna get you back on soon. No doubt. Florida Atlantic and Charlotte, that's going to be on ESPN2 at 6:30 tonight. So you guys make sure you want to check that out. Kicking off the Saturday games, of course, you got Florida State and Wake Forest at 11 a.m. on ABC. And the big noon Saturday game, we got Oklahoma, got all they could handle from UCF. So now they travel to Lawrence and face Kansas.
I think this could be a trap game for Oklahoma if they're not careful because they're one of those teams that are quietly sneaking up on people. I know they beat Texas a couple weeks ago before their bye week, and they alert the nation and say, hey, let's not forget about us. I know you talked about their star quarterback, Dylan Gabriel. He has 19 touchdowns and 3 interceptions on the season. Lakina, he could be a sneaky candidate for the Heisman Trophy. But Kansas, as you mentioned, they're not just a basketball school anymore. They're a football school. And right now they're 5-2 on the year. And their big star running back, Devin Neal, he's going to have to carry the load for this Jayhawks ground attack. He has close to 700 yards on the season with 6 rushing touchdowns. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. Just hopefully that Oklahoma can stay on their P's and Q's because they think that they can just go into Lawrence, Kansas, and coast. It's going to be a problem for them.
Yeah, Lance Leopold's done a great job building that football program over at Kansas. So we'll see if they can give Oklahoma all they can handle tomorrow. Indiana and Penn State. Penn State hoping to bounce back from that loss to Ohio State. And they were 1 for 19 in third down. So, hey, James Franklin, stop worrying about your other teams and worry about your third down conversions. They shouldn't have no trouble with Indiana, but, but then again, you never know with Penn State. But we'll see how they look and kind of bounce back from that loss to Ohio State.
Yes. Also, too, at 11 o'clock going Big Ten Network, the 5-2, Maryland Terrapins will travel to Evanston to take on the 3-4 Northwestern Wildcats. Lakina, does Northwestern have a chance to get back to 500?
Didn't they lose their quarterback? Did they lose their quarterback too? So yeah, he's been one of their best players on the team so far this year. So excuse me, if he can't go, that's could be a long day for Northwestern. I know Maryland wants to get a bounce back from that loss to Illinois last week. They were able to kind of stew on that for last couple of weeks. So I'm sure they're going to want to take it on somebody. So we'll see if they can do that. At the same time, South Carolina and Texas A&M on ESPN, Houston and K-State, a little Big 12 action on ESPN2, West Virginia UCF on FS1. Memphis against the Fighting Layla Rahimis of North Texas. That's at 2 o'clock on ESPN Plus. Clemson and NC State. That's gonna be the 1 o'clock on WGN here, the CW network for all you guys out there. Check your local listings for that. And the annual, they haven't called it the cocktail party in years, but they do have, Florida and Georgia. Georgia coming off a bye. We'll have their matchup down in Jacksonville to start off the afternoon games at 2:30 on CBS.
I'm really looking forward to this game only because, Lakina, we talk about Georgia. They're still the number 1 team in the land at 7-0, but they're not the same team as they were the last couple of years. I know they lost a couple of guys to the NFL, but I haven't really been impressed by Carson Beck this year. I know he has 12 touchdowns, but those 4 interceptions still lingers on in my head, and their defense has really saved the day, to be honest with you. They're the mirrors of, they're the better version of Alabama, slightly better if you have me compare those two teams in the SEC. But Florida, I think they can give Georgia a scare here. I really do. But Florida has to play almost a damn near perfect game. They got to get after Carson Beck defensively.
Yeah, Brock Bowers is out for the year for Georgia, and I think Florida's been so inconsistent this year. I don't know which Florida team you're going to get. So, it's kind of like a toss-up. I know Billy Napier, you don't want to say he's on a hot seat down there in Gainesville, but people in Gainesville are not very happy at the moment. So, if they can beat Georgia,
well, they're 5-2 and 3-1 in SEC plays. So, I know they got high expectations up there, but considering what the players that they have on their roster, you got to be pretty happy. I know, like I said, expectations are higher, but the way that their program has been struggling the last couple of years, I guess just going back to our state here in Illinois, you ask the fine line, they'd rather be 5-2 and have those quote unquote type of problems. They'll take it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Now, this could get very interesting down there in Austin. Quinn Ewers, of course, is going to be out for a couple of weeks. And Texas hosts a very tough BYU team. They're 2-2 in conference. They're 5-2. I'll talk about BYU, and with him being on the hot shot, it could be Arch Manning, Peyton, and Eli's nephew. Or it could be Malik Murphy, who's a true freshman, who was another top recruit, who kind of was sort of like quietly. Of course, you got Ewers. Of course, you got Arch Manning. Of course, considering that the family tree he comes from. So it's gonna get interesting down there in Austin. BYU's a really solid 5-2 team. So Texas could probably have even with Ewers, we're gonna get a tough go at it anyway. But with Ewers being out and the two freshmen QBs will have to start. So could be interesting down there in Austin.
Yeah, we'll see what this Texas defense is made of. We saw what they did at Alabama, on the road earlier in the season. They had a tremendous performance. I know they won the game a couple of weeks ago, as I mentioned, with Oklahoma, but their defense got shelled, especially in the secondary. So I'm looking for Texas defense, how they're responding, especially without their starting quarterback. But I think on the offensive side for Texas, it's going to be up to Jonathan Brooks, their star running back. He has 6 rushing touchdowns on the year, off of 825 yards rushing. Also, too, watch out for their star wide receiver, Xavier Worthy, 4 receiving touchdowns on the year.
Could be a defensive matchup too. The BYU team is actually pretty decent, so we'll see if they can. We'll see what happens because this could be an upsetter for Texas. So we'll see. A good one here in the Pac-12. At the same time on Fox, you got Oregon and Utah. Of course, Utah coming off their 4th straight win against USC. Oregon with a bounce back win. So. But I kind of feel like Utah kind of backed into that one. So I'm thinking that Oregon, I know they're a little bit banged up there, especially on their receiving side, but they have a lot of great receivers. We know how Utah's been really solid with their 2 QBs, but it looks like they may have found their QB in Bryson Barnes. So but that defense of Oregon is actually really solid. So this could come down to a defensive struggle. These 2 teams have actually been playing really well together. And I think Utah, has won the last couple of meetings. So we'll see if they can kind of, get it going here. So it should be interesting.
I think Vegas agrees with you, Lakina. The over-under total for this game is 47.5. If Utah brings it defensively, it's going to be a long day for Oregon State. But I'm looking for Bo Nix to have a great game from Oregon. Of course, he's, in my opinion, he's a top 3 Heisman candidate. He has 19 passing touchdowns on the year to 1 interception. But Mr. Irving, Mr. Bucky Irving, it's time for you to run the ball against that tough Utah defense. He has 7 rushing touchdowns on the year. I'm looking for him to have a big game.
Should be a fun one down there in Salt Lake City. Notre Dame back from their bye, that big win against USC. They faced a Pittsburgh team that had a big win themselves, beating Louisville. So, Pittsburgh may give Notre Dame all they can handle. We'll see what our girl Christine thinks. That game will come on at NBC at 2:30. Speaking of Louisville, they played Duke. No, this is not the rematch of the 1986 national championship game in men's hoops. This is not a rematch of that. They play each other 2:30 on ESPN. That should be a fun one there. This could be an elimination game for that part of the ACC division.
Yeah, we talk about Duke being one of those surprise teams this year. You mentioned they are 5-2. You saw what they did to Clemson on opening night. But Louisville, as you mentioned, they beat Notre Dame a couple of weeks ago. And so we teased Christine about they're 6-1 right now, which is one of those teams that no one's really talking about. I think it'll probably come down to a field goal, Lakina, because I think it's going to be a slug-em-out fest. Louisville's favored by 5.5 points at home.
Should be a fun one down there. In So it should be an interesting one. Mississippi State and Auburn, SC Network. You got Michigan State and Minnesota. Minnesota coming out that really strange win down in Iowa. I think that was PJ Fleck's first win against Iowa, if I'm not mistaken. They haven't won in Iowa City since 99. So it's been since last century since they beat them. Nebraska hosts Purdue at 2:30 on FS1. You got Virginia coming off a huge upset win against North Carolina. They play Miami at 2:30 on the ACC network, and Miami.
It's gut check time for the U. This is gut check time.
Yeah, they got a slug out win against Clemson. Almost blew that one too, but that's another story. But should be interesting to see with Virginia. We know what's been happening at that program the last couple of years. You saw the relief on their face after beating North Carolina. Miami still kind of within struggling. This is the ACC, so should be interesting down there and at the U.
Yeah, Tyler Van Dyke, the U's starting quarterback, he must play much better. I know he has 16 touchdown passes on the year, but those turnovers have really cost the Hurricanes, and he needs to take care of the football. I think it starts and ends with him.
Okay, we'll see what happens with that. You got Iowa State and Baylor on the Big 12 ESPN Plus. Channel Tulane against Rice. They're trying to stay with a distance there. USC hoping to bounce back after two straight losses as they face Cal. That's at 3:00 in the Pac-12 network.
Real quickly, Kina. The USC, since now their national championship hopes are over. Do you see Kelly Williams for the rest of the year?
He doesn't want to play. You know how much of a big competitor he is. So I don't see him. I know I saw some people say that should he just play because they got 2 losses now? But I'm like, he wants to play. He wants to try to at least win a big bowl game. Perhaps maybe they still have an outside shot of win the in the Pac-12 title. They only got 1 loss. So even though the national championships are gone, they still got a shot with the Pac-12. Now a lot has to happen in front of them, but they still got a shot. So I don't. He's a big competitor, so I don't think that's happening there now. Right here on the FS2, Wyoming against Boise State. If I can find my place here, and as we go into the prime time games, you got Washington and Stanford. Washington got all they could try. They almost lost against Arizona State. So, but they play Stanford. We know these two are big time rivals. Stanford, of course, had some big wins. They gave Oregon all they can handle too. So I'm hoping that maybe Michael Penix will have a bounce back game against Stanford. That's at 6:00 on FS1. Unbeaten Air Force. They go to Colorado State. They play them. That's at 6:00 on CBS Sports Network. Tennessee and Kentucky at 6:00 on ESPN. Ohio State and Wisconsin at 6:30 on NBC. No need to stream this. All you Ohio State fans that were complaining about having to watch this game streaming. It's gonna be on NBC, folks. Don't worry. Do you think Wisconsin have a shot at perhaps one of upset over at Camp Randall?
Oh, do I think they have a shot, but they're gonna have to match Ohio State point for point because, as we talked about before the season started, Wisconsin's supposed to have the new offensive philosophy and be more of an air attack type team. They started that earlier in the season, obviously against lesser opponents. But as we saw for the last couple of weeks, especially in that game against Iowa, it was a no-go. So they need to get back to their new identity. Do they have a shot? They do. I think they do have a shot, but I don't think they're going to pull out the upset, though. I think Ohio State is too much for them. Kyle McCord has picked it up the last few weeks. I know he has 12 touchdowns to 1 interception on the year, but I think he's going to have a good game. Also, too, Marvin Harrison Jr., who should be a member of the Chicago Bears next year. He's picked it up the last 3 weeks, so I expect those 2 guys to have a great game for Ohio State. But I think it's going to come down to Braylon Allen with Wisconsin, Lakina, to keep that Ohio State Buckeyes defense on his heels as they start rushing attacker for the Badgers.
Should be interesting to see what happens down there at Camp Randall. Wisconsin has beaten Ohio State there before, so I'm sure Luke Fickell will have his guys ready. Ole Miss, they host Vandy on SEC Network. Colorado and UCLA for the ABC, primetime game. I know there were some people that were wondering, what? Huh? Why?
Because of Deion Sanders, that's why.
Well, you have a team that's now they've won. I think they're 4-3. They're 1-3 in conference. You got UCLA. They're 2-2. I know they had they had a tough loss to last. They did win it. Yeah, they beat Stanford pretty handily. And I mean, I might not watch this game too much. I know Colorado has had time to kind of sound that tough loss against Stanford. UCLA, they're trying to say with this record, this is at the Pac-12, so they've got a lot to play for as well. So for me, I'm kind of like, this could be like one of those. It just could have been a basketball score, so who knows?
I hope it is. If it is, I think Colorado may have a shot, but realistically, I think UCLA will win the game. But I expect Colorado to play a whole lot better. Like you said, you had almost 2 weeks to learn from that loss and sit on that loss when Stanford blowing that 29-point lead 2 weeks ago tonight. And so I think Deion will have his guys out and ready to play. But they definitely got to I know they have a lot of issues, but one of the main issues is they got to cut down on the stupid penalties. And that's what's been killing them all year.
And the turnovers too. We know UCLA's got a pretty solid defense. We talked about them all week, so all season. So UCLA, this might be a blowout. So we'll see what happens. There, North Carolina home to bounce back for the loss to Virginia. They go to Atlanta to face Georgia Tech at Bobby Dodd Stadium at 7:00 on the ACC network. And of course, you got James Madison, another team that we probably don't know too much about. That's still unbeaten. They're 4-0 in their conference. They host Old Dominion. That's going to be on ESPNU. So for all you guys that have not seen James Madison play, I know they've been playing on ESPN the last couple of weeks. So make sure you check it out as well. Arizona State hosts Wazoo 7:00 on the Pac-12 network. Tennessee against Oklahoma State on ESPN2. That's the night game there. Later on, you got Oregon State and Arizona. It should be a fun one there at 9:30 on ESPN. New Mexico and Nevada on CBS Sports Network. And on FS1, they got UNLV and Fresno State and San Jose State and Hawaii to wrap that up.
Going back to that Oregon State-Arizona game, Lakina, should we start to take the Wildcats seriously? Because I know they haven't been good in football in a while.
Yeah, Arizona. Yeah, I mean, look, remember they gave you they beat USC, and look, they're a team that are still kind of like sneaky. Kind of a sneaky good one of those sneaky teams. They're 4-3 in the in conference, so 4-3 overall. They're like 2-2, I think, in conference right now. So Arizona has been like one of those teams that are kind of like sneaky, around. But look, Oregon State has a great defense, so that's gonna be a big test for them tonight. So look, they're number 11. Talking about Oregon State they're still right there to think of it in the Pac-12. They're kind of like in the driver's seat now with Washington. Now that USC has kind of lost. In the Pac-12, so this could be very interesting. We'll see what happens with this one, but it should be a fun one over there in Tucson.
Yeah, so going back to the 3:00 game on the Pac-12 network with USC and Cal, how many touchdowns do you think Caleb Williams will throw? I'll say about 4.
I'll say 3 to keep it low, probably, because because I think I think at the last couple of weeks, with all the stuff, losing to Utah and everything else, and they've been pushing against the wall, so they got a tough schedule. USC does, and they need to get their butts at least back into like right there in that mid-level bowling, because like I said before, they got a new AD down there. She's not messing around, so I would be surprised if they don't end well. I would be surprised if Lincoln Riley gets the boot. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if it does.
Well, Lincoln Riley apparently is sick right now, and he ditched his coaches show earlier this week, and he made his players and coaches not available to the media. So, like you say, if it ends badly, especially with all the other stuff going on behind the scenes, it could end badly for him. But we'll see what happens. Now, going back to the SEC, Lakina, in the middle road to the bottom, I'm not going to say the bottom half, but the middle tier teams, you talked about Tennessee and Kentucky facing off on ESPN tomorrow night. It says, I think this is a bigger game for Kentucky because they started off, I believe, 5-0 in the season. They lost their last 2 games. Of course, I remember them getting beat down by Georgia a couple weeks ago. They didn't look good. Tennessee, they're still in the mix, but they haven't shown themselves to be one of those top teams lately. But both these teams have identical records. The only difference is Tennessee's ranked 21st in the country. Kentucky's out of the top 25. So both teams are 5-2. Those two teams are 2-2 in the SEC play. Who do you think has the bigger pressure could go on them, Tennessee or Kentucky?
I think Kentucky does because of the fact that they lost a couple in a row. They were right there, got their butts kicked by Georgia. Now Tennessee, of course, they're coming off that loss to Alabama. I know that Josh Heupel really felt that they left a lot of points on the board. I'm talking it could be one of those days where it could be one of those messes, and also to try to slow down Ray Davis. Georgia kind of gave the blueprint to do that, so if they can do that, they can definitely kind of get back into it. So, gonna get very interesting to see what's going to happen down there in Lexington. So, yeah, that should be a fun matchup.
Yeah, and going back to Pitt and Notre Dame tomorrow on NBC at 2:30. Notre Dame's favored by 20.5. I know you said Notre Dame should not have a problem with Pitt. They're favored by 20.5, but you think Notre Dame should take care of business at home? They should. Should they?
Well, I mean, look, they had a week off to kind of like celebrate the SC win. I know Pittsburgh also has put off an upset. They upset Louisville, who beat Notre Dame a week prior to that. So I can kind of see, Pittsburgh kind of like, well, I mean, I guess unless Dan Marino and Tony Dorsett they have college eligibility left. I can't see unless they got and Mark Mays on the O line, but yeah, I can't see either one of them. I can't see. I mean, you never know. I mean, look, I don't think anybody saw that Pitt beating Louisville coming after that, but of course, the classic letdown game. So, but again, they shouldn't have any trouble. But then again, you never know.
Yeah, who else has a thought on the University of Notre Dame? Let's bring in our girl from KXRB Radio. Our girl, your girl, Miss Christine, the Queen Manika. What up, Christine?
Hello, how are you?
We're doing good. Now, look, you're the perfect person to talk about Notre Dame and this Pitt matchup. You think they're going to have any trouble with them tomorrow night? Tomorrow, I mean?
Well, I mean, with Louisville a couple weeks ago, let's hope not. But yeah, after having a solid bye week and celebrating that SC win, I think they should be pretty okay.
And also tomorrow night, Deion Sanders' team, the Colorado Buffaloes, after blowing that 29-0 lead against Stanford a couple weeks ago at home, they'll go to Los Angeles to take on UCLA. Do you think that Colorado realistically has a shot at an upset? Do you think they'll play a whole lot better? What do you see in that outcome of tomorrow night's game? Yeah.
Anything can happen at this point. I think after last week, when it comes to just football in general, anything is a toss-up right now. So, yeah, sure. Why not?
Well, the whole thing with the, with everything that's going on, I see Michigan is off this week with all the weird stuff going on with the sign stealing and all that stuff. What are your thoughts on that, Christine?
Yeah, I actually haven't heard about that. The sign stealing, what's that all about?
Yeah, apparently, I guess they had like one of their guys. I guess he was in the military, and I guess
I thought you meant like someone was going to like lawn to lawn and stealing lines.
No, not that kind of sign stealing. Not literally.
I'm like, someone's stealing lawn signs. That's a new one. That's a little bit shady. Obviously they got to do a lot of investigating to see how accurate these claims are. We probably won't know anything until towards the end of the season, but it definitely is interesting. And if they are doing something like that, I don't think it shows in their record right now.
And with Christine on that one, we all know that all types of teams and professionally and collegially do things to get an advantage. I know the old saying goes, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, but I think it's going to be a whole lot of nothing at the end of the day. You say, Lakina, that the NCAA is investigating this. I told you from day one, I started working with you on the show, the NCAA as an organization are a bunch of crooks. I don't trust them.
They didn't do anything with Northwestern. They're not doing anything with this.
Hello.
Well, remember, and look, they didn't find anything though. Look, Kansas found a loophole with that whole Adidas scale, so they're not even a sponsor of the NCAA. So that's why they were able to get out of that one. So, but yeah, I mean, look, it's just especially if you hear like a booster supposedly involved in this. So, yeah, the whole thing seems a little bit weird and shady. So, but anyway, you know what? We're gonna take a really quick break. We're gonna do our NFL Week 8 picks. Yeah, we didn't do very well last week, so
nobody did. It's not just us, everybody.
Yeah, we all were bad last week. We're hoping to have a bounce back this week with some good matchups here, and of course, including Bears and Chargers for Sunday night. We'll have thoughts on that, I'm sure, coming up next. Lakina McGee, Sydney Brown, Christine Manika for KXRB, the Second Sports. Sports on Chicago, our pickup is coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too. These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on Chicago. I'm McKee McGee, format Kenny McGee on the Twitter, X and Kenny again, the IG.
You can follow yours Shirley Sidney Brown on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. We have the last segment of the show for today and for the week. So make these questions and comments, make them great. So you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions and comments in the comments section. Lakino will get them up on the screen for you.
All right, real quick with our picks. None of us were very good last week. Christine, you and I only had 5 correct. 5?
I counted 3.
You're 3? Oh, no, you had 5. I swear to you, you had 5. I swear.
That's
swear you
more than what I thought. Then
yeah, you had 5. Yeah, I counted. You had 5.
Girl, I'm not gonna argue with you then.
Yeah, let's say no. I promise you had 5. We both had 5. We all said you had 7, so you gained a game. Now you're 3 games up on us, Sid. But you know what? No worries. You know what? New week. Let's do it. You know what? And there are no buys. It just has to be there are no buys. No, not that there are no more buys, because there are no buys this week anyway. So yeah. So we'll get right to it here. Of course, CBS has a doubleheader again this week. So all right, let's start at the top here. You got the Texans and the Panthers. So you start this one for us.
Texans and Panthers. Let me go on my score sheet here. Lakina starts with the worst game on the schedule. And there'll be a noon game on.
Get out the way. Get out the way. Get out the way.
Worst one.
Yeah, get out the way.
Yeah, battle of rookie quarterback C.J. Stroud versus Bryce Young. Watch, you'll probably be one of the most entertaining games of the day. Houston's favored by 3 points on the road. I'm going with Houston.
Keeping it short and simple for me, Houston.
I'm keeping it short and sweet here as well. I'm picking the Texans as well. It might end up being a pretty exciting, but I'm picking the Texans. All right, Christine, you start this one for us. You got Rams and Cowboys.
Well, the Rams disappointed me last week as one of my many losses. I picked them over the Steelers, and of course, they disappointed me. I don't know what's going on. Cooper Kupp, I had a decent game. I think Stafford is playing a little bit hurt right now, so they're just kind of all over the place at the moment. Dallas, they're coming off a bye week. They are itching to get another win in their belts, so I'm giving this one to the Cowboys.
Real quick, Christina, what did you think about the 4th down call for the Steelers right before the 2-minute warning at the end of the game last week? The Rams couldn't challenge it because they had no timeouts left. What did you think about that situation?
What do I think about it? Garbage, like the whole last week. Garbage.
Tell us how you really feel with that. Yeah, I'm picking the Cowboys too. I mean, that was a tough loss for the Rams, and I'm just like, good Lord. And like you said, I think Stafford is a little bit banged up.
Yeah,
I really think that's the case. Although Cubs are looking really good, so but I think the Cowboys, they want to kind of get out of that that mindset. So I'm picking the Cowboys as well. Now
I'm going with Dallas.
You're going with Dallas too. Okay, perfect. Now now Chicago's going to get this game on the NFC North. You got the Vikings and the Packers. Vikings are now 3-4. Packers are 2-4. Sid, you start this one.
Damn. As a fan, I'll be cheering for the Vikings. But the Packers, as I said last week on this show, that the Denver would beat them, and that's exactly what happened. The Packers, you think that they're on the cusp of winning the game a couple of games in a row. They disappoint you, and then when you count them out, they suck you back in. I'm going to see if I'm going to follow that trend. As a fan, I'm cheering for the Vikings, but as an expert in air quotes here, I'm going with the Packers here. I know the Vikings really got lucky last week thanks to Brock Purdy and his quote-unquote concussion with his 2-interception performance. I'm going with the Packers here. The Minnesota's very favored by 1.5, which means it's at a pick-up if you're betting in Vegas or their abroads.
I'll pick the Vikings. I for some reason I feel like they're kind of they got a little bit of a go ahead from Purdy's concussion and whatever, but they made the big plays late, and I think Minnesota could be one of those sneaky teams that we're starting to see the Minnesota teams that we thought we were going to see challenge in that NFC North spot. So I think for me, and I think Kirk Cousins has looked really good. He hasn't made any bad mistakes in those last couple of weeks that they've have. And I gotta say, Jordan Addison is probably becoming one of the rising stars in the NFL. So I'm picking the Vikings.
Sid, I was kind of hoping that you would do one of my famous dams when you when you said it there for a second. But God, this is something else. I never thought that the Packers would be sitting in the position where the Bears are currently at and have been at for the last number of years now. But Packers fans, I hope you're enjoying the company. Let me tell you, I'm picking the Vikings in this one because even without Jefferson, they didn't look too bad. Now, granted, even though Purdy was playing technically hurt, he still had a lot of weapons in his tool belt, so to speak. And for whatever reason, it just didn't work for them on Monday night. And that's kind of frustrating to see. The whole week was frustrating. Again, I can't emphasize that enough. Not only did we all get last week wrong, but Vegas got last week wrong. So what are you going to do but pick the Vikings? So I'm going to pick the Vikings. You like that? I like that.
Well, you like that? You like that?
You like that?
You like that?
Chains, Christine. How many chains for Kirk Cousins now?
So far just one this year. He just has the one right now.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, remember you saw just after that big win against him. Yeah, so that's actually pretty funny. Now this should be an irritating one here. You got the Saints and the Colts. I'll start this one. I mean, for me, I think this is going to be very. You know what which Saints you're going to get. The Colts have looked, kind of been up and down to a Minshew, not at the helm. I guess I'm picking. I might regret this later, but I'm picking the Colts. I think just because I don't know what Saints team I'm going to get. I just don't know. So yeah, I'm going to pick the Colts because they're at home.
I'm going to go with the Saints here just because last week, I can't believe the Browns almost lost against the Colts, even with them totally crumbling the Colts this year. And they've been kind of having a rough couple seasons, but this year with Anthony Richardson going down, having so much hope in this young up and coming quarterback, and then Jonathan Taylor kind of being wishy-washy throughout the offseason and now during the season. It's just been kind of a little bit of a downhill roller coaster right now for the Colts. So I'm going to go with the Saints here.
The Saints are favored by 1 point on the road. Both teams are 3-4 on the year. The Colts, in my opinion, got robbed with that fumble last week, which should have been a fumble on P.J. Walker, but we won't talk about that. The Saints, as you mentioned, Lakina, I thought they would be one of the teams that would take off in this bad NFC North. It just hasn't happened yet. It is a toss-up, but I'll go with a Vegas pick. I'm going with the Saints.
Definitely a pick 'em there. Definitely Vegas right about that. Now, our buddy Spiro Diaz will have this game on CBS. You got the Patriots and the Dolphins. Now, suddenly this game is actually becoming very intriguing. So, Sid, you start this one for us.
The Dolphins got embarrassed by their own shellacking by the Philadelphia Eagles last Sunday night. The Patriots got a big upset win against the Buffalo Bills at home last week. But I think the Patriots will come back down to earth. The Dolphins are back home in a hot climate-controlled environment. They are favored by 9.5. Let's go, Tyreek Hill. I'm giving it to the Dolphins.
I'm going to go with the Dolphins, too. Statistically and performance-wise, they're the better team. The Patriots just got lucky. I don't know how it happened, but it did.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I think the Dolphins, they want to bounce back after a loss to the Eagles. And yeah, the Patriots kind of backed into that one. So we'll see what happens. There should be an entertaining one still, nonetheless. Now, the Battle of New York. Christine, you start this one. You got the Jets and the Giants.
I think this is going to be a good game despite a really down-and-out Giants team, but I am going to give this one to the Jets in the end.
Sid?
Same. I'm going with the Jets.
That's keeping it short and sweet there. Yeah,
and the Jets are favored by 3 points.
Yeah, Daniel Jones is out. It looks like Tyler Otto will have another start. So yeah, I'm picking the Jets as well. Jaguars and Steelers is actually something becoming a very intriguing matchup here. So Christine, you start this one.
Yeah, this one was kind of tough for me to pick, but I'm kind of gonna go with the underdogs in this one and pick the Jaguars. They haven't been having too bad of a season. I think they're one of the teams I think that's surprising a lot of people, even though, like I said, they haven't been having the strongest of years recently. But yeah, with the Steelers, you just don't know which team you're gonna get. And last week, they just so happened to win. But I don't think it's gonna happen this week. So I'm picking the Jaguars.
Jacksonville's a 2.5-point favorite on the road. They're 3 away from Jacksonville. They're 5-2. Steelers are 4-2. I'm with Christine. The Steelers got out of LA with a lucky win last week. I need Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne Jr. to do damage for me on my fantasy team, so I'm going with the Jaguars.
I pick the Jaguars too. I know that that the Steelers are well, actually both teams are coming off a bye, so this is that could be interesting here. And yeah, I think the Jaguars is a little bit better right now. I know that the Steelers have looked really good, but yeah, I'm picking the Jags here. This could be their second or third win over there at Heinz Field, so yeah, they're definitely in for a win there. Battle of the you got one team that's doing well in the NFC South, the Falcons, versus a team that's not doing well in the AFC South right now, in the Titans. So Sid, you start this one.
I believe the Falcons are 2.5-point road favorites. Ryan Tannehill, the starting quarterback of the Titans, may not play. I was going to go with the Texans, the Titans, early in the week until I heard that news. Until we hear otherwise leading up to game time, I'm going with the Falcons.
Christine?
Boy, this one, remember when we said that Texans and Panthers were going to be the worst game? This one, I think, is going to be one of the more painful ones to watch this week.
Agreed.
You know,
yeah.
You don't know what you're going to get with either team. Who knows? I know that Tannehill's out, but with the Falcons, I just don't trust them fully, so I'm picking the Titans.
Yeah, I'm picking the Falcons for some reason. Although, it would shock me at Derrick Henry because Derrick Henry saw from earlier in his career it has a big game, but we know that'll happen. But yeah, that should. But I'm picking I think the Falcons. I think they're kind of getting get it going right now, and I think they're kind of like one of those teams. They're kind of right on the cusp. So we'll see what happens with that. Now, some 2-0 rivals in the NFC East are battling out. You got the Eagles and the Commanders. I'll start this one. I know the Commanders. They've had a couple of tough losses lately. And, for me, I think the Eagles, they're starting, that I think that win against the Dolphins definitely is, could definitely, kind of like was that win they desperately need. So I'll pick the Eagles here and should be a fun one. Sid?
I'm going with Philadelphia. They're favored by 7 points on the road. The Commanders, they're playing much better despite their loss last week in New York against the Giants. I think they'll keep this game close only because it's a division game. But Philadelphia hasn't looked good. We talked about it all year long, losing both their coordinators for the head coaching positions. Jalen Hurts not looking as strong as he has been looking over the last year or so. But they're the better team. They should be able to win this game. But I think it's going to be a field goal type, last-second field goal type win for Philadelphia.
Yeah, Sid, you took the words right out of my mouth there. I am picking the Eagles, but let's hope it's not a trap game for them.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
You know how those divisional games are. So, yeah, it could end up being a trap game for the Eagles, but we'll see. The first of the 3 o'clock games, I don't know if we're going to get this here in Chicago, but you got the Browns and the Seahawks. Say you start this one.
We will not get that Browns-Seahawks game because we're getting that Vikings-Packers game because it's a regional action for Fox. But we'll be getting it via this computer in my NFL Red Zone package. But regardless of that, Seattle's favored by 3.5 points at home. They beat Arizona last week. Of course, Cleveland got a tough win at Indianapolis last week. Of course, Deshaun Watson is out again. His timetable for his return is unknown. I know the Browns have a strong defense, which will – what was that, Christine?
I said, that's fine.
I know that the Browns have a strong defense led by Myles Garrett, but I don't think that's going to be enough. I got the Seahawks in a close one at home.
I'm going with the Seahawks, too, keeping it short and simple.
Yeah, I think the Seahawks, this will be one of those grinded out type games, but I think they got just enough on top of the Seahawks too. Plus, they're going to be at home, and you know that crowd there is going to be rocking. So yeah, I'll pick the Seahawks. Mainly because they're at home. Let's see. Next to the 3 o'clock games, you got the Battle of the Birds. You got the Ravens and the Cardinals. Christy, you start this one for us.
I'm gonna go with the Ravens here. They stomped on the Lions. It wasn't even a competition. They just dominated those poor Lions. They made their mark known that they are still a strong team in the NFL this season, and I think they're going to keep that going this weekend.
I'm going with Baltimore as well. They are 9.5-point favorites on the road. Lamar Jackson should have a big game for Baltimore. Christine, he's your fantasy QB, correct?
Yes, he is. You remembered.
Yeah. Expected to have a great game.
I hope.
Yeah. I mean, they're starting to kind of get it together, get it figured out, that offense. So yeah, I think the Ravens too. I think the Cardinals will do their usual thing. Especially, I think Kyler Murray is going to play. I think, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, they'll keep it close for a little bit, but the Ravens are going to be the Ravens and pull away late here. No word if Taylor Swift's going to be in the Mile High City, but he got the Chiefs and the Broncos. Gosh, I mean, I know the Broncos got that big win. Jesus. I want to pick I'll pick the Chiefs. Like I said, I thought about maybe picking the Broncos, but I ain't that crazy. So yeah, I'm sorry, Chris, if you're listening, buddy. I'm picking the Chiefs.
It's been so crazy this season. I wouldn't be surprised if Denver somehow pulls that off.
No, I wouldn't either.
I wouldn't be surprised. And if Taylor Swift is there, I wouldn't be surprised if she's hanging out with Sierra either. You know what I mean?
Probably.
At one point. Wouldn't be surprised. But for all intents and purposes, I'm going with the Chiefs. It can go either way with how they've been ugly winning lately. But I think when it comes to just dynamics, it's a little bit cleaner for KC.
I'm going to pick Kansas City here. They are 7-point favorites on the road, but if you're looking for a free pick, entertainment purposes only, outside the betting confines of your local state, I would advise you to pick the Broncos in the points. But as far as we pick winners, straight up winners on this show, I'm going with Kansas City.
Okay, this one should be very entertaining. I believe Chicago, we're going to get this one here. Chicago for CBS. You got the Bengals and the 49ers. 49ers have last couple losses, especially the one against Minnesota. Then you got the Bengals coming off a bye. They're now at 500. No, there's not revenge for those 2 Super Bowls. They face each other, or was it 3 Super Bowls? I'm not sure, during the 80s. But good grief. I know Purdy probably Sam Darnold's going to play. I know the Bengals are coming off a bye. Debo might be back. Like Christian McCaffrey's going to be back as well. That's probably one of the reasons why the 49ers lost those last couple of games. I know the Bengals have been looking really good lately, but I don't trust them yet. I think San Francisco has a bounce back and they win this game Sunday. How about the 49ers?
Yeah, I think even with Purdy out, I trust Sam Darnold. I think he's a good backup for the 49ers, and they've been lucky over the last couple of years to have solid backup quarterbacks. So I would have a lot of confidence in Sam Darnold, and they still have a lot of good guys on the team to back him up too. So I'm going to go with the 49ers. The Bengals, they have their moments, but Joe Money's just not doing it this year.
San Francisco's favored by 4 points at home. So, Christine, I think Vegas has something in line with you as far as Joe Burrow and the Bengals are concerned. Of course, the Bengals are 3-3, 1-2 away from Cincinnati. The 49ers defense must play much better. On a personal note, they gave me -3 points on my fantasy team last week, but I won my match. But I digress. I digress. But like you mentioned, Christian McCaffrey, he's back. Hopefully, Deebo Samuel will be back. I need him on my fantasy team, but that's besides the point. But I'm looking for the 49ers defense to play much better, so I'm going with San Francisco.
Should be interesting. Should be a fun matchup there. And on Monday nighter, you got the Raiders and the Lions. Lions hoping after getting shellacked by the Ravens to get an extra day to kind of stew on that. The Raiders have a tough loss against Chicago. I'm thinking the Fighting Dan Campbells would just have to win this game. I know Jimmy G's might be back this week, so but yeah, I think Dan Campbell will have his guys ready for this game. So I'm picking the Lions.
I'm picking the Lions too. I think they're really, really wanting a big Monday night win after that embarrassment pretty much on Sunday. They I don't know about you guys, but over here in South Dakota, they flipped the game pretty much after the second quarter here.
I'll bet they did. Did.
And so did I. Of course, the Raiders got embarrassed here in Chicago to their own shellacking last week. Jimmy G may be back, so I know they'll make Christine happy for the moment, but the Lions are the better team here.
So why would you say that? Why would you say
that?
Well, you like Jimmy G outside of your soon-to-be husband, but I digress. But the Lions are 8-point favorites here at home. I think this is the first time in almost a decade they'll have a home game on Monday Night Football, so that Ford Field's going to be rocking, it's going to be loud, it's going to be crazy. I'm going with Detroit. They're the better team here.
Yeah, no Manicast, unfortunately, for this month, this game. Yeah, I know. Yeah, no pain to Eli, guys, but it will be simulcast on ABC and ESPN. And last but not least, here the Sunday nighter here just so happens the Bears and the Los Angeles Chargers, San Diego, whatever we call them. Here, Sig, you start this one for us.
The Chargers are favored by 8.5 points. NBC is going to rub it in all of our faces with the Tyson Bagent and who's going to cast them to play him in a movie. And Chris Collinsworth is going to say some annoying shit.
I'll take that over Joe Buck any day.
Ouch.
But I think the Bears would.
No offense.
I think the Bears will surprisingly keep this game close. That Chargers defense has not lived up to expectations this year. The Bears defense, even though they still haven't sacked anybody with any consistency, they played much better over the last 3 weeks. They had 3 turnovers last week against the Raiders, including pick 6 by Jalen Johnson. So I think this Bears team will keep it surprisingly close, but I think the Chargers will barely, and I do mean barely, do enough to beat the Bears. So I think the Bears will cover the spread, but the Chargers will win the game.
Boy, so this is so funny. So my dad and my grandfather went to the game on Sunday, and even leading up to the game, we were already commiserating about the Bears. We were already just mentally preparing about how bad they're going to do and just why are you even going to this game? And to our surprise, I was listening because we didn't have the game on TV, but I was listening to Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer, and I was listening to the game, and I'm like, I can't believe what's going on right now. They're winning. They're actually winning. And I think this Tyson kid, he could actually, he did everything that he was supposed to do. He did probably the hardest thing to do, and that's start in an NFL game on a Sunday afternoon in Chicago against the Las Vegas Raiders with Crosby looking dead at you in the face on the other side. And he did that. He did everything that he was supposed to do. And I think the true test will be this coming Sunday. The Chargers haven't looked great this season. They are 2-5 right now, I believe. 2-4. Give or take 2-4. And it's just now, it hasn't been looking good. I know a lot of Chargers fans have been very disappointed this year. So you don't know what kind of team you're going to get. Granted, they're 8-point favorites right now. You just don't know what's going to happen. Khalil Mack, he's someone that everyone should be looking out for sure, is going to go after Tyson. But after this weekend, I think the kid's got a good head on his shoulders, and what a great story too. So I'm going to get on this soapbox here and go with the Bears and see what happens. And if this kid, if Tyson can prove that he can get through this game Sunday night with a win, there is definitely going to be a quarterback conversation come Monday morning. Definitely.
Well, look, he more than held his own. Look, here's the thing with Bagent. He didn't have to worry about. Look, the only guy he had to worry about was Crosby. They were able to contain him. Here's what you have to deal with with the Chargers: Joey Bosa, Eric Kendricks, and Khalil Mack, who I'm sure would love to send a message to his former team.
Love it.
He's going to want to do that. So I think that's going to be a different way of thinking here. And look, Derwin James and Sunday Samuel Jr., they've been, kind of like that. I'm sure they will love to kind of, slow down Mooney and Cole Kmet and those guys. The running game, the run defense is okay. I'm talking about the Chargers. So I'll say this. The Bears will cover, but they will lose. I think the Chargers will win this game barely. They need this win more than the Bears do, because if not, Brandon Staley, pay slip your link card, dude. He's gone. So they're gonna play like a team that their coaches on the hot seat. So we're gonna see a totally different Chargers team. So yeah, Joe, I think that the Bears will cover, yes, but I think the Chargers will end up winning overall. And that is your schedule for this weekend in the NFL. It was the Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago. Lakina McGee, City Brown, our girl Christine Manika, KXRB with you now. Okay, so yesterday on Chicago sports history, something big happened with the White Sox. The 2005 White Sox won their World Series, beating Houston, sweeping them in 4 games. And look, Juan Uribe was a big part of that. AJ Brzezinski, Mark Burley, so many others. So many others. So, Chrissy, I know you were like, I think, how old were you during that time, and where were you when they clinched it?
I was in 4th grade, and I believe, let me do my math, 10. I was 10 years old. So it was 18 years ago. I'm 28 now. Crazy to think about. And I'm still holding on to that 18 years ago. We're going to keep that feeling going. That's for sure.
I think this will do.
2 out, Palmero over the head of Jenks. Uribe charges, throws, out! And the White Sox have won the World Series. Juan Uribe with a play, charging it, throwing it, and the White Sox celebrate their first title in 88 years. For this team that for so long has been considered the second team in the second city, no more. The Chicago White Sox are world champions.
No mas. And Ozzie Guillen was a world champion manager at 41 years old.
And they will be celebrating in the streets of Caracas.
And that clip was from, of course, Fox Sports. Of course, you saw, Tim McCarver, who was doing the game, with them at the time, and you saw how much history that was. And look, I think Ozzie, that he's like the second youngest guy to win a World Series. If the youngest or the second youngest, if I'm not mistaken, I think Cito Gaskin hasn't been like a year or maybe like a few months or something like that. And there was always this thing where I think Joe Buck even said it. However you feel about him, Christine, he said, "Look, I mean." There was this back and forth as to which team, the Cubs or the Sox. You both had long droughts. Who was going to break that drought first? It ended up being the White Sox. They did it in pretty dominating fashion. They had a little bit of luck going their way. I'm sure Angels fans will probably love to have a little bit of a word with that. But I think definitely that team is still revered to this day. And I know that they still got banners to that team. They still got pictures of that team all over G-Rate, and just a great team. I know AJ Brzezinski. I think he had like a couple of the guys from that team on his podcast. So you guys check that out on YouTube or Google get your podcast. So
foul territory.
So what do you? So like, it's unfortunate that we haven't seen that anything close to that for the White Sox since. And I think we'll see if Chris Getz, who just missed being there. I think he didn't get until like a couple of years after that. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
Here's the thing with that White Sox team in 2005. You swept the defending champion Red Sox in 3 games from the year before. You lost game 1 to the Angels, but you won the rest of the games in that series in 5 games, including all those games that they won the ALCS. 4 straight complete games from your starting pitchers. You haven't heard that statistic since the late 20s, and you're not going to see that again with the specialization that's been taking place in baseball over the last few years. And, of course, you sweep the Astros the way they did. That was incredible, including Game 3 at the time. It was the longest game time-wise in World Series history. That game didn't end until about 1:30 in the morning the next day. And so that was a marathon right there. But the White Sox team matched the 1999, I believe, Yankees for the best record for this modern postseason era. So, what that White Sox team did, it'll never be forgotten, obviously, but they'll never be matched. Don't forget former Yankee pitcher El Duque Orlando Hernandez, what he did in Game 3 at Boston, coming in with the bases loaded, not giving up a hit, not giving up hit, not giving up a walk. Had a pop up and 2 strikeouts to preserve their first round series sweep against the Red Sox. So what the 2005 White Sox team did was incredible. Even though it was a small window, they took advantage of it. Unfortunately, they couldn't get back to the playoffs that next year because they had a bad August, but they got back in 2008. But you could tell that the dynamics of that team changed at that point. But 2005 came out of nowhere, as Christine said. We're going to hold that thing. We're going to hold that memory on until whoever the next White Sox team is to hoist up their World Series trophy.
Yeah, and also, and I kind of feel like, like I said, that team is still revered. You still get Scott Pasechnik. He's been doing stuff for NBC Sports Chicago last couple of years, and of course, we all see the great Mia, so the AJ has been doing. So I think that team is still remembered. And look, unfortunately, here in Chicago, like some parts, they don't, they're not like revered as they should have been. Like when the Cubs won some like 8 years later, but that team is still like one of the top teams, especially the way they dominate. I think they only lost like 1 game, I think, during that whole playoff run. So they're definitely should be up there as one of the top, playoff runs of all time, I think.
Yeah, and let's not forget Frank Thomas, who does media work with NBC Sports Chicago. Remember, he got hurt midway through that year, and so he still got his ring. And, of course, he never returned to the White Sox. But he stuck around. I know many people thought that he stuck around a few years too long, but it was all worth it for him. He got his only World Series title.
Yeah, absolutely. So anything else you guys want to say before we disperse? Christine, real quick, what do you think about the Bulls having a players only meeting after only 1 game?
I was gonna say that's interesting. I don't know if it's something up with the players or if they have a problem with Coach Donovan there. There's something happening already, and I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing.
As we said, Lakina, at the top of the show, the Bulls could change their narrative with a strong performance tonight again, as they'll play it again at home tonight against the Toronto Raptors before heading out to Detroit to take on the Pistons tomorrow night on the road in a back-to-back. But the optics doesn't look good, but it's early in the season. I'm not getting ready to jump into Lake Michigan and call this season over. It's one of 82 games, so the Bulls just have to come and play better for 48 minutes. I think they'll do that.
Yeah, they got a couple of, I don't want to say easy games, but there are a couple of winnable games coming up with, of course, the Raptors tonight and the Pistons tomorrow. So they should be able to win both of those games and not at least one. So, like you said, they can flip the script real quick. And we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's going to get very interesting. So, with that said, you follow
real quickly, Keena, we got to get Christine's pick for the World Series. It starts tonight.
Oh, yeah. Rangers.
Texas or Arizona?
Arizona.
And I'm going to go with the Rangers with this one.
How many games?
How many?
4.
Oh,
you calling a sweep? Okay.
I'll give Arizona 1 game. I'm gonna pick but I got the Rangers in 5.
Give me the Rangers in 6.
All right. With that said, you can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter, X at Keenan's coming in the IG.
You can follow yours truly, CD Brown, on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. Christine, where can the lovely people follow you on social media?
They can follow me on Twitter at @CManika_KXRB.
And you still have the bird?
I do.
Oh, love it. All right. So, of course, you can catch Second City Sports every Monday and every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago Facebook and YouTube channel. Once again, catch this show every Monday, every Friday right here on Sports Zone Chicago on your Facebook and YouTube page.
Don't forget to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. Please subscribe to our podcast at War Media Podcast, PWARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms. Say that 5 times fast. All podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And please follow War Media on all social media platforms at WARR Media. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
And don't forget, you can catch Second City Sports along with our other programming on Sports Zone Chicago on Roku TV.
Get it anytime, anywhere. Catch our show, Sean and Maya, the Smoke Fellas. What's Up, Cousin, a whole lot more. It's all right there for you.
And we will provide.
All right, so try to stay warm out there. I know it's going to be a little bit colder in some spots of the country for late October is here, folks. Just
we getting it next week here in Chicago. Good grief!
Heck yeah, yeah. So stay warm,
especially for you trick-or-treaters out there. Leave me alone.
Yes. Yeah. All right, stay warm, folks. Enjoy all the great sports that's coming up this weekend. And for Sid and Christine, I'm the Kansas Mid-Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago, and we'll see you Monday. Sorry.
The Bears, holla!